Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my October wrap-up. I read 8 books in October, ranging from fantasy, memoir, thriller, YA, romance. I think that's about it. So let's just get into it and talk about all these books and what I thought about them. Please also let me know what you guys read in October in the comments down below and your thoughts, and if you would recommend any books that you read that I should add to my TBR. The first book I read in October was Wisteria by Adeline Grace. This is the third and final book in the Belladonna trilogy. This was such a treat. I gave this 4.5 stars. I think this was my favorite out of the entire series. This is a YA romantasy series. You're following along a couple different people in this series, as well as death and fate, and all of the intertwined parts of their lives together. It's such a great series. I enjoyed all of them, and I think they're very quick and easy to read, very entertaining, and I have to say the romance and the banter in this one was top tier. It was the best out of the series, and I am very sad to see the series finish, but I will definitely read whatever Adeline Grace comes out with next because I just adored her, loved her writing, and it got better throughout the series. The first book, I wasn't a super big fan of Signa, but as the series went along, I started loving each character more and more, and I think that also has to do with the writing just getting better and flowing better overall. Fantastic series, really recommend it. And also these editions are beautiful. Obsessed. My Belladonna though is not a special edition, and I'm really trying to fight the urge of not just buying a second copy of it so that I can match all of my other copies. It's really hard not to. The next book I read was Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. Finally, I read a book by a Polish author. If you know, you know. I've been on a mission to read books by Polish authors because I am Polish, and it's been a journey. I don't know what stops me from reading the books I own by Polish authors, but I finally got to one this year. And this one is not what I expected. You're following Janina, who is, I wouldn't say elderly, I think she's like a middle-aged woman. And she lives in a remote village where she studies astrology and then also takes care of, I think, students in Warsaw when it is during the school year. And her neighbor dies. She thinks is murdered, other people thinks it was natural causes, and so she kind of takes it upon herself to find out the mystery of how he died and who killed him. And again, this story just turned in a way that I was not expecting it to, and I wasn't mad about it. I just feel like the execution wasn't great, and I wasn't really fascinated with it. And the plot twist, I kind of saw it coming, but at the same time, I don't know. It was just a little underwhelming, but I did love the way that Olga Tokarczuk writes the atmosphere. It did feel like this book was winter. It felt cold. It felt like chilly, like you needed to be under a blanket in front of a fireplace to read this book. It really encapsulates the feeling of coldness and death, I think. And so I would still recommend this book. I don't know if I said my rating. I gave this 3.5 stars. I just felt like the plot for me wasn't the greatest, but I really enjoyed a lot of other aspects of this book. And the characters, some of them I enjoyed, some of them I didn't, and some of them I didn't really understand what was the purpose of their character. So was that. The next book I read was a memoir, and I actually listened to it as an audiobook, and that was The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop. If you know me, you know I am a Gilmore Girls stan. I love Gilmore Girls. I've been watching Gilmore Girls since, oh my god, I don't know, since I was 13? Somewhere around that age. I remember, I think I've told this story before, borrowing my sister's best friend's DVDs so that I can watch Gilmore Girls because we did not have online streaming. So anyways, I adore Kelly Bishop. I love Emily Gilmore's character, and as I get older, I love her more and more. And I didn't know much about Kelly Bishop's life, and this memoir went into a lot of her life as a young girl going into Broadway and then going into acting and how that all turned out. There are sections about Gilmore Girls and the impact that Gilmore Girls had on her life, but it is a lot more about that, and there's a lot about her relationship with her husband and a lot about grief and aging, and it was just superb, fantastic, adored it. I loved that the audiobook was narrated by her. It just felt like home. I really enjoyed it. If you are a Gilmore Girls fan, I would definitely recommend listening to the audiobook. It's not all about Gilmore Girls, but there is a lot about it, and I think just overall her life is so fascinating, and I just love her even more now. The next book I read was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. So the next 3 books are all a part of my reading spooky books for a week for Halloween reading vlog. So I will quickly go over them, but I will tag that video in the cards and then in the description of this video if you'd like to watch it. But I was very underwhelmed with this one. I gave this 2.5 stars. I think I'm not a Riley Sager girly. I think at the end of this, that is what I'm realizing. I have never given any of his books 5 stars, but I've given them a range of 2.5 to 4 stars. Yeah, so in this book you're following Casey, who is a recent widow, and she goes and lives in her, I think, family's cabin. I don't remember. Yeah, family's lake house in Vermont. And she's very secluded, and you find out pretty quickly into the book, she definitely is an alcoholic, and she gets really fascinated by her neighbors, and specifically her neighbor Catherine. And so she meets her, and actually like 2 days into knowing her, she saves Catherine from drowning, and then Catherine goes missing, and she takes it upon herself to find out what happened, because she thinks Catherine's husband did something, but she doesn't know. I just didn't understand Casey as a character, very unreliable narrator, which I'm fine with, but I didn't like her. I found the alcoholism part to be very unbelievable, because she was very functional and clear-headed when it came to a lot of things, yet you're hearing her describe drinking profusely every single day, where you know that she would not be coherent in real life. So it just felt a little bit unbelievable, and I also did not understand the fascination with Catherine because she only knew her for a couple days. The twist in the story was interesting. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. I just overall did not really enjoy the characters in this book and did not really enjoy the plot of the book. So I think I might unhaul this. I don't own any of his books, and I was thinking of keeping this, but I don't know why, because I won't reread it, and I don't know. I'll see if one of my friends wants it, but I think this is an unhaul. The next book I read was Rouge by Mona Awad, which again was in that reading vlog. I gave this 4 stars. I'm definitely a Mona Awad fan. After reading Rouge, I read Bunny by Mona Awad. Did not know how I felt about her writing, the way that her books are such a mindfuck, pardon my language. And then after this, it kind of solidified that I am for the psychological trauma you get from reading her books. So with Rouge, you're following Belle, who is in her 20s, I believe, and her mother just died, so she goes to California to, go to her mother's funeral and deal with her mother's assets and things, finding out she has no assets and she's actually severely in debt. And so she's kind of just trying to deal with all of that. And at the same time, she gets these kind of cryptic messagings from a cult that her mother was a part of. That's all I want to say. Even then, I kind of feel like I said too much. I think you should go into this book blind, just knowing that it is a book that has an overarching message of the beauty industry, and especially its effects on women and men, but mainly women because the main character is a woman. And know that you are just gonna be having a really crazy, mind-bending experience reading this book. This book, you do not know if you are supposed to take everything seriously or metaphorically. It is crazy. I loved it. The ending too was quite open-ended as well, which I think was perfect for the overarching message of this book, and I just adored it. I had a blast. I highly recommend this. I think this is a lot more approachable and believable than Bunny was, but I still would recommend Bunny. But I think Rouge is a good place to start. And I think, though, a lot of people say her other book, All's Well, I think that's what it's called, is similar to Rouge, but I haven't read that one. So if you have read that one, let me know your thoughts if you've read also Rouge. But yeah, really enjoyed this one. The next book I read was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This one, again, I had very, very high expectations for, and I think that might have ruined the experience for me. I was also sold this book to be a psychological thriller, but I think it is definitely more of a sci-fi with thrilling aspects and a romance tied into it, because at the end of the day, it wasn't really thrilling psychologically for me. It was just a very interesting story, and I really liked the science aspects of it and the love story, but the actual plot of it, I was a little bored. I just felt like it was not detailed enough, oddly enough, even though it is sci-fi. I just wish there was more information about the science part of this world rather than the thrilling parts. You're following along Jason, who is married. He is a science professor, has a child, and then he gets kidnapped one day when he goes for dinner with his friend, and he wakes up in a new realm, new world, where he is a science prodigy, science god, and he is not living the life that he was previously. But then he gets a little confused, not knowing if this is his real life or the past life was his real life, or what realm is he in, and you get into like metaphysics. And I liked the theme that this book tries to convey, but I think near the end it is just said way too many times that you're like beating a dead horse. It was just kind of too drawn out for me. So I don't know. Mixed feelings about this one. I did like it overall, but I do see a lot of faults with it as well. The next book I read was a memoir as well, and that was Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I also read this as an audiobook, and I gave this 3 stars. Now, it's very weird rating memoirs. I typically rate memoirs just for enjoyment purposes, and I read this book because it was recommended to me by a friend, but also I just wanted to kind of hear what she has to say. I wasn't looking for advice in this book when it comes to love, but just kind of hearing another person's perspective. And I think I just did not enjoy it as much because Dolly Alderton's life is very different from mine. Her early 20s was vastly different than my early 20s, and it kind of felt like she was shaming other people if they didn't live the life that she did, where she was a big partier, heavy drinker, drugs, all of that stuff, right? I just didn't relate, and that kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. But then mid to end of the book, where she is in her 30s, I found that a lot more relatable, and I enjoyed those pieces more, and I felt like they felt more truthful and honest and adult. And those were the tidbits that I actually liked. So for the entertainment purposes of this book, I'm giving it 3 stars. But I think depending on the demographic and how you are and how you grew up and how old you are, this book could be like a 5-star rate for you, or it could be similar to me where it's 3-star or lower. Then the last book I read was Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood, and this I adored. I gave this 4.25 stars. This is a YA romance about a girl named Mallory, and at this point in the book she's around 18. You find out that she loved chess growing up, and she was very, very, very good at it. And then she stopped, and you don't really know why, But at the same time, she is grieving the death of her father, and she's living with her mom who is sick and her 2 sisters, and she's kind of like the breadwinner for the family now. She didn't go to college. She's working in like an auto shop because she has to pay the bills, and then she gets given an opportunity to do chess again for money. And there she meets Nolan Sawyer, who is the current like head of chess in the world. Sparks fly a little, so you follow along their journey together, and specifically Mallory, her journey back into chess, and you find out what happened basically to stop her from playing chess. And overall, I loved this. I found it so addictive. I loved the chess aspects of it. I just love books about chess for some reason. I don't even play chess, but I love books about chess or have chess involved in it. And I just loved Nolan and Mallory together as well. One thing though, I would say this should not be marketed as YA. There is quite a lot of spice and reference to sex in this book that I don't think is age appropriate, but I also think that might be just me getting older, because when I think about the books I read when I was like 15, I think about Pretty Little Liars, and I'm pretty sure there was also spice in those books, or Gossip Girl. And so I think it's just me being older, realizing that those books were not appropriate, and that's why I kind of am a stickler for YA and the spice that's in YA. I would say this is more new adult, but yeah, again, that's just my opinion. But overall, I love this book. Those were all the books that I read in October. Let me know what you guys read in October, how your spooky month went. And we've got 2 months left of this year. I have so many books I need to read to, first of all, reach my book goal, and finish all of the little challenges I set for myself this year. Some are looking good, others, we'll see. But thank you all for watching and spending this time with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!